You're playing because you love it, you miss it. So I think that's going to be the most exciting piece that I'm going to look forward to see how the players and how they actually react.
Well, this is kind of unique. The first Basketball Central at Home show that we've put on where there was actually real basketball to talk about. A little ways into the future, but good news for the NBA and its fans as they announced a restart July 31st at the Disney World Complex in Orlando. Training camps will begin on July the 9th. The latest the season can go is October 12th. That would be a potential Game 7 of the NBA Finals. And then the start of the 2021 season is planned for December 1st. And that's something that a lot of people involved with the NBA have long talked about anyway. So those are the numbers. Those are the concrete dates that we finally got set to talk about. Swish or Brick will be along a little bit later. Michael Grange and Alvin Williams will talk about what they think of the restart, in particular the Raptors' schedule for the first 8 games before the playoffs. But first, Danielle Michaud gets the thoughts, wide-ranging thoughts from the Raptors coach and world champion Nick Nurse.
Happy to be joined again by Nick Nurse. And Nick, before we chat about return to play, which is, of course, something everyone's really excited about, I really wanted to start with something which is much more important, of course, what we're seeing in both the United States and here in Canada with the Black Lives Matters protests. What kind of conversations has this maybe prompted within your own circles, within your family, your friends?
Yeah, lots of them. Constant, really. And again, I'd share a little bit broader than that. I think that, first of all, had several calls with the team. We had, just one right after another with the whole group together. And they were just kind of open forums to discuss anything about it, and obviously there was also some action plans and ideas of things we could do to help. We've got a platform, but we've also got a unique one. I think, all the 4 major sports have a platform. NBA is a little unique, but my first and lasting impressions from the championship parade were looking down at all those smiling faces of young kids in our city that from literally every color. It just struck me as what a unique city, and it strikes me now as how big a platform that is. With them looking up to us or enjoying in the success that we had, or seeing our players as role models or advocates or whatever they can see them as to make things better in the future.
Now, amidst all of this, you're also preparing for return to play, Nick. Do you have any reservations? Are you concerned about anything going in?
Yeah, for sure. I think that, if you just are paying attention to anything that's going on around the world, I think you get concerns almost anytime you have to go out right now, right? So, I have some concerns. I think that I would say this: I trust the leadership of the NBA very much. I'm honored and privileged to be a part of this league, and so I think they're going to do a great job of trying to make it as safe as reasonably possible.
With all of this unknown, they're trying to figure out ways to make this, as compelling and competitive and as close to what it could have been before in terms of the playoff structure. Did you see the list of the potential home court advantages that were being thrown around? And if you did, which one do you like the most, Nick?
I've seen a couple of them, but I think they ought to just give us like a 10 or 20 point lead to start.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah. 10-0, 20-0, whatever, depending on what seed you are. So
Oh, that's too funny.
I don't think any of those are going to matter too much, and I think it's just going to be it's neutral site, man.
Yeah.
4 out of 7. I always say this: we're hard to beat, and we're really hard to beat 4 times. So
Yep.
I don't really mind a home, away, or neutral.
All right, one last question for you, Nick. Have you seen the photo floating around of Marc Gasol, and does that give you maximum confidence you're going back to back?
Well, I've seen Mark quite a bit, actually, other than that photo in Zoom calls, etc. Mark's one of the guys I don't worry too much about, to be honest with you.
No, savvy veteran, that Marc Gasol. Thanks so much for chatting, Nick. And of course, we're all really excited to see what the Toronto Raptors can do when they get back to playing.
Thanks for having me.
Your late scratch. Rudy Gobert with an illness is out tonight for Utah. The players, coaches, referees went back into the locker room.
We knew something was a bit off.
Reportedly, Rudy Gobert has tested positive for the coronavirus. Some very sobering news. The NBA has decided to suspend game play. Who knows what's going to happen going forward?
This is for the NBA, and I think all of professional sports. This is uncharted territory.
3 months after the forced shutdown, the words that NBA fans have longed to hear, that the league is planning to come back beginning at the end of July in Orlando, were certainly welcome for everybody, including Michael Grange and Alvin Williams. And Michael, right away, you were all over the schedule once it was determined who the Raptors would play in the final 8 games before the playoffs. What's your opinion?
The Raptors are in a tough position. They have a 3-game lead on Boston with 8 games to play. Normally that would seem safe, but when you look at the Raptors' quality of opposition, they've got the Lakers, they've got the Bucks, they've got the Nuggets, they've got the Heat. The average winning percentage of the teams they're playing is .654. That's like a 54-win team. That's like playing the Nuggets or the Celtics for 8 straight games. Meanwhile, on the other side of it, the Celtics, they have a number of games against teams, 2 games against the Wizards, who aren't going to make the playoffs, another game against Portland, who's not in the playoffs right now. The best team they play is they have 1 game against the Bucks, 1 game against the Raptors, but overall the quality of their opponents is about is a 40-win team. And so, when you look at that, can the Raptors hang on to a 3-game lead? You'd like to hope so, but if they don't, instead of opening against Orlando or Nets, teams that are well under 500, it's going to be Indiana, it could be Miami, it could be the Sixers. Really, really good teams. It's a vast difference between the quality of those potential first-round opponents.
Well, Alvin, let's play devil's advocate for a bit, considering that a 3-game lead with 8 to play should be safe. Regardless of what Michael said, we don't know. But playing tougher opponents, maybe is that better to get you set for what comes in the playoffs?
I think it's always a good thing when you get a chance to challenge yourself and you see what your team is made of when you're playing against top quality teams. And I think the one thing, all of these teams, they're pretty much on a even playing field because they've all had the same break. They've all had the same stipulations. So, usually at this time, you're trying to play for that home court advantage. You're trying to play for that advantage, which no team is going to have because of the circumstances. So when you're looking at it, of course, you want to put yourself in a position where you have games in the playoffs where you can just start getting the momentum and you don't have to go against the top seeded teams, and that's what you're fighting for. But, at this time, getting on that floor, being prepared in the playoff time when that intensity is going to be there anyway, it really doesn't matter who you're playing early on in the earlier stages.
Hey, Michael, if that gap doesn't close in the first couple of games, do you expect the Raptors to use their depth as a way to get everybody slowly back in so there's not more of a risk of an injury in those first 8 games?
They'll have to, and the Raptors have the luxury of having that depth, and everyone's healthy, as Alvin's pointing out, so they don't have to trot guys out for 40 minutes a night. You have Fred VanVleet and Kyle Lowry healthy together so it seems like the first time in ages, and so that's a big factor. I think that's the Raptors' real kind of weak point in the sense of, they can't run Kyle Lowry into the ground, especially if you're going to be playing every other night for potentially, if this all goes well, 10 weeks. So you definitely want to have the benefit of being able to spread those minutes around at the point guard spot.
And Alvin, people concerned about players playing in front of no crowds, but we just saw in The Last Dance another revisit of that Dream Team scrimmage and how quickly it got ugly and they got after it. How soon do you think for the players will the adjustment come that you're trying to beat the guy in front of you and you realize there's a championship at stake down the line?
Yeah, it is. It's funny because you don't have the crowd and you don't have your home court and you don't have the opposition going against you to sometimes motivate some of the great players. A lot of great players, they use different things to motivate them, but it's really going to tie into, to me, taking the game back to the authentic stage, right? When you're not playing for the fans, you're not playing for the endorsements, you're playing because you love it, you miss it. So I think that's going to be the most exciting piece that I'm going to look forward to see how the players and how they actually react to the circumstances of not the fanfare and not the certain things that, goes into a professional sports game.
Well, it's been fun, guys, the last few months talking everything history in this game, and now it's going to be even more fun going forward, talking present and then the future that is going to be wild regardless. Thanks for this.
Slowly but surely, basketball will return. But in the meantime, fellas, I figure we'll play another edition of Swish or Brick. And we've seen sort of the plan laid out. 22 teams, we know that. They're going to Orlando. But there's been other things they're trying to figure out, including how to give the home court advantage to the higher seed, since there will be no home court. E, did you take a look at this list, and do you think it's a swish or a brick?
I did look at it, and I think it's a brick. I kind of tend to look at it like this. It's an unprecedented time. We're all kind of just, dealing with the pandemic, dealing with trying to return to some sense of normalcy. At this point, really, is it going to make that much of a difference if you have an extra timeout or a longer timeout or whatever fandangled thing you want to come up with? I think it's kind of an even playing field, no doubt, in terms of the neutral site. But Danielle, if you're a better team, if you're actually better, if you're truly a number 1, a number 2, a number 3 seed, you don't need all of these gimmicks. You should be able to go out and win, whether you've got the crowd behind you or not, and success and wins should travel no matter where you're playing.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny now, right, that there's no fans and all that stuff, and then you start hearing people say, you don't need it anyway. And before that, it's all about the fans. It's all about home court advantage. It's all about, we got the best fans in the world. Now you're hearing people say, we're good without fans. So I give it a brick for that standpoint as far as the home court advantage and things like that. But overall, the idea of trying to give other teams advantages through timeouts and all this other stuff, it's a brick.
So since they're playing at Disney, how about some Disney-inspired NBA logos? The Toronto Raptors one had Rex from Toy Story front and center. Alvin, 8 weeks ago, you were not about any kind of fun, but can I convince you these are a swish?
And 8 weeks later, I'm still about no fun. Brick.
No, they're amazing.
This is a gigantic boulder. It's not just a brick. It's 8 weeks full of bricks. Just fill the screen with more bricks. It's a terrible idea. I know it's supposed to be fun, but I mean, it's gimmicky enough that it's going to be at Disney World. But hey, at least it's safe. Let's just leave things as is. Absolute brick.
Now, all this time, we've had nothing new to focus on, so it's led to a lot of reminiscing and looking back and what-if scenarios, and one of those was discussed on an All the Smoke podcast. It was Tracy McGrady saying if he'd stuck around in Toronto, they would have played for a championship. Alvin, I've got to start with you since you were a part of this. Is that a swish or a brick?
Do you really want to start with me?
Yeah, I want to start with you.
But I will say this. I think we'd have done big things without Tracy. So I don't want to put it where we didn't do big things because he wasn't here. So I don't want to take it out of context. I don't want to do it, but I mean, it's never one man. I thought our team, we were pretty good without him. I'm gonna give it a brick because I'm not trying to hear what if from Tracy McGrady. He made a decision. He got to live with it.
I'm gonna say a swish only for the sense that I agree that it was possible. Hold on. Listen, we've talked about this before, Al. I think everything Alvin just said, I'm in full agreement with. It's not about one guy, and he made the decision to go, so that's on him. But Al, the idea that it was possible, that's what I'm giving a swish on. And the reason being as well, and I know you and I have talked about this, even Kobe Bryant was on the record in years gone by saying, if Tracy McGrady had stuck around in Toronto, I think we being the Lakers, would have played Toronto at least once, if not multiple times, in the championship. So that's not to say that T-Mac sticking around would have put Toronto in the finals or would have given the Raptors a championship, because I think Al's right. They could have done it without him. But I think, would he have helped? Would it have been possible? Yes. So the sentiment alone, I'm going to give a swish. Sorry, Al.
I'm not trying to hear it.
Put that hat back down.
That man saying that without him, we didn't do.
No, he didn't say that. He didn't say
well, from what I gathered, cheese and crack.
This is me stirring the pot. I knew this one would be a good one.
Brick.
All right. I don't think any of the three of us have really tackled TikTok yet. I'll speak for myself anyway. I certainly haven't. But Enes Kanter was on there and posted a pretty hilarious video poking fun of Giannis's playing style versus James Harden's playing style. Swish or brick on that. It seemed pretty savage.
Well, it's savage and it's also accurate. So I'm gonna say it's Swish. it's definitely a Swish because Giannis is a straight line to the hoop and James is dipping and dancing all over the place. So I thought it was pretty funny too. Kanter's got a great sense of humor, so I give this one a Swish.
I'm rolling with you, E. I'm giving it a Swish as well. That was, you look at James Harden, his style, it was all scribble. That's him dribbling around. So I love the humor, the sense of humor, and it's very accurate, as you said. I'm giving it a Swish as well.
And some kids got more than they bargained for, I would say, when they showed up at DeJounte Murray's house. They knock on the door, come out and play. They hit the driveway, and Murray absolutely throws down on them. Alvin, brick or Swish?
Swish. You gotta go. Hey, kids, don't come knock on my door looking for the Swish. I'm gonna give you everything you need. But how cool is that as a kid? You can knock on a pro athlete's door and they really come out and you can touch them, you can play with them, you can see them.
Yeah, I agree. It's a Swish. I mean, that's a better memory than just saying I played with him. I got dunked on by DeJounte Murray. You know, he threw it off the wall and over our heads and absolutely threw it down on our 8-foot hoop. So that's a better story. So I give it a Swish.
Agreed. I'd be putting that on a poster immediately and getting him to sign it. That's a wicked moment to not forget. And Alvin, you better hope now the kids don't show up at your door wanting to hoop in your driveway.
Trust me, they won't.
Thanks, fellas.
As always on Basketball Central, we welcome your input, and we are going to assume that all basketball fans are happy with the return of live sports into their living rooms. But we want to know this time, what is the best thing? What are you most excited about with the NBA's announcement that they will return on July 31st? Is it the play-in game aspect, which could have traction going forward as well long-term? The fact that it remains the traditional 16-team format by conference, 8 on each side, or the fact that it's a bit of a crapshoot, no true home court advantage for the playoffs in the NBA. Thanks so much for joining us again on Basketball Central. We will talk to you next week as we continue now to work towards the restart of the 2019-2020 NBA season.
We are good because basketball is back.